Life is all about the gray area undefined. Life is filled with parallels. You can have your cake and eat it too. You can choose to live your life out loud, or you can choose the in-between or the middle of the road. Inside the gray area, that's where life happens. I'm Leanne O'Brien, Chief Marketing Officer for McGregor. Welcome to Inside the Gray Area, sponsored by McGregor. Welcome. We're here today with Dr. Connie Korosec. She's the Professor Emeritus with Ursuline College and their curated collection. Welcome, Connie. I'm so glad to have you here today. Interesting story. After being on many boards of directors, the ballet, the American Red Cross, American Cancer Society, and a number of others, I accumulated quite a collection of hats and gowns over the years. And I believe at one point in time when I felt it was time to purge my closets, I started reaching out in Greater Cleveland to different entities to see who would be interested in taking on some of the items that in many cases were once worn or never worn. And I happened to come across Connie at Ursuline College, who was more than willing to take my collection of hats and hat boxes and the gowns that I had, which most people probably don't wear gowns to benefits much anymore. And I was totally enthralled, Connie, when you gave me a tour of the school and some of the design work that the students had on display, and even some of the collection of items that were in cases there, or some of the historic garments that students were working on. So I'm so glad we had an opportunity to meet that way and have since gone on to do various programs together. But tell us a little bit, Connie, about your start at Ursuline and how you curated this collection.
I started at Ursuline College in 1984, and I had just received my master's degree from Kent State University, and I was ready to go into the world, take on the world. And my degrees were in marketing and fashion, merchandising, and design, and textiles. And so I was ready to do everything. Kent State said, you were one of the best graduate assistants we had, so would you teach a semester for us? So I said yes, and that gave me an opportunity to be in the classroom with students, and it was exciting.
Yeah.
And they were very interested, and I noticed that they were really good, but all we had at that time in 1984 were really pictures. And the Kent State Museum did not begin until 1986.
Okay.
And so that changed everything again. But I started at Ursuline in 1984, and after being 1 month on the job, I went to see the Vice President of Academic Affairs, and we had a meeting, and he said, "So what do you think?" And I said, "Your students are asleep." And he said, "They're yours now, wake them up." And I said, "Do you have time? I have this idea." He said, "Yes." I said, "I would like to create a study collection, not a museum, but a study collection where students could have hands-on with what they read about, talk about, and we test about." And he asked me the 5 famous words: "How much will that cost?" And so I said, "I don't know, it's a mystery. It would be just donations,
right,
and we would see." And he said, well, we should have a meeting with Kent State, with the Western Reserve Historical Society and the Art Museum. So we did at University Circle. As we were sitting down, all 3 of them said, "What we don't need in this town is another museum." And so we said, "Great, this is going to be a study collection. What do you think?" They loved it. And we started getting things in. The words went out, kind of like how you found us.
Right.
They have something that they loved and they're not using it anymore and making room for the closet. It's too good for goodwill, but what can we do with it and where can we put it? That's how it began. And gosh, now we have over 4,000 pieces, all donated by people in the community like yourself. And it's just been fun for me to reach beyond the classroom to people in the community who wore the fashion that we were talking about.
And it's not just hats and gowns, as I mentioned. It's kind of everything we even see here.
Yes.
So it's jewelry, it's shoes, it's a little bit of really everything. Nostalgia and that vintage and current and everything. And I thought the other thing that you shared with me that was fascinating was that the students don't disassemble the garments that are brought in, but they in fact use them for inspiration to create new designs from that.
Exactly. Yes, we do not deconstruct anything. It is what it is. The shoe or the hat will come into the collection just as it is. Nothing is changed and nothing is modified. And then students go into the collection and sometimes they are inspired. And then they can bring in a dress that speaks to them and see how it's constructed, turn it inside and out. How is it made? And how did they draft this design? So they do drafting of their own original designs, and they might copy something, which is just fascinating that they're so interested in the idea that they can see it, pick it up, touch it, turn it inside out. Look at how the construction was from, our collection goes from 1900 up to the present. So how things were constructed in 1900, and sewing machines were just invented in 1850, so in 1900, we didn't want to start beyond that. So sewing machines were available, but the sewing machines themselves became more sophisticated. And so how things are put together are more sophisticated, and that's how they use the collection.
Today the dress almost makes itself.
It does, it does, and we encourage them to take marketing because you need to know how to sell your product. You can make the most beautiful dress in the world or gown, and if you don't know how to sell it or market it or how to get it to market, it's just a beautiful dress.
Right, exactly.
So marketing is very, very important, and I guess I got that from my background too at Kent State. While I was at Ursuline, this is interesting, they asked me if I would get a PhD, and I pretty much said when donkeys fly, and this is why. I have a son at university school, a daughter at Laurel School for a Girl. We cannot have three people in college
at the same time.
and so they, Ursuline nuns were very good. They said, would you take little baby steps and do a semester at a time? And I said, yes. And I could do that. And they said, and you would go to school in the summer, but we want you to go to summer session 1, summer session 2, summer session 3. And you could get it done. And so I applied to Ohio State University and they took me in.
Wonderful.
And I did not finish at Ohio State University. I did 16 hours of aid there, but my husband gave me a new car. It was a Mercury Cougar XR7. I didn't see the flashing light. I destroyed the car. The engine burned up.
Oh, no.
That's part of my tale. And anyway, he said, you have to be in Cleveland. So I went down to Case Western Reserve. My husband graduated from there, my son law school from there. And they said, you're a legacy. And so, yes, we'll take you. And so I finished my PhD work at Case Western Reserve University. And some of these things were part of the exhibit that we did. And if I could just point out a couple of things to you, would be interesting. In the collection, we collect shoes, but I wanted to bring a shoe from the 1980s. And when you look at this shoe, you can see that the toe is so pointed that no one has a foot like that.
Right.
Our toes are way back here where the rhinestones are. But this was the extreme, the high heel and the very pointed toe from the 1980s. And I thought it would be interesting to see a shoe from the 1930s. And this one is all a rounded toe. These were comfortable. And these were rhinestones, and it has a little buckle up here. But I thought when you look at fashion, you can see the contrast over the decades that fashion is. That's what makes it so fun.
Right, right.
And then I thought I would also like to show you 2 handbags. This one is from 1900, and it opens up, and you powdered your face in there. You carried your powder as well as your coins in there.
That's in the top.
It's in the top. And then I wanted to contrast it with an evening bag that would have been used today. You could use this today. They had something very similar in the 40s as well. But fashion is so interesting because as each decade progresses, the ideas about how we should look and how we should dress and it changes. And it's good.
Yeah. Well, even when you think about wedding dresses today, how many of them have pockets? You know, pockets for your lipstick, pockets for who knows whatever else you might keep in your pocket, your cell phone maybe, I don't know.
Cell phone probably too.
Yeah, but I also remember at one of our events, you showed one of the old mufflers or muffs that the women used to use to put their hands in to keep their hands warm. But the one in particular that you brought that day opened up
as a purse, and inside you could keep everything that you needed, and then you closed it and had a snap close, and then you put your hands in the muff to keep warm. It's so unusual and so beautiful. It's the only one that we have in the collection. We have lots of muffs that you just put your hands in, but this was very, very different. And as we began to collect the clothes, people would say, do you take shoes? And we go, no, not really. But then we started to. And that you can see the contrast in how it tracks fashion. And then they'd say, do you take handbags? We go, not really. But then we would add that. And then we added hats. And I brought 2 hats here today. And they're black and white. And this one is all black. And this is like a petal that you wore on your head. And it just fits on. And then it has a little, almost a headlight up here.
Yeah, a little embellishment.
And then this one is more of a wide brim hat. It has net, and then it has this little detail at the back. I've done a lot of fashion shows. People want a fashion show, and I go, how about a black and white fashion show? They go, wow, can you do that? I went, yes. And so it's been fun, and people seem to enjoy the black and white.
Well, you even have a vest back here on the piano.
I had a vest that I brought back here, and it is got 5 layers of fabric. For those of you who sew, you probably don't put 5 layers of fabric together. This is an original design that I created, and I used a bold lining, and then on the top I layered 4 layers of fabric, and then I cut them and opened them and put a rhinestone, scattered it about, and it's just a way that you can manipulate and create your own fashion.
You almost think it could be reversible.
It is reversible completely. You can flip it, and I like this bold fabric so much that I made 5 different dresses out of it, all different from different periods, decades, and they loved it.
And actually, it's quite heavy.
It's
for a
heavy.
vest.
It's very heavy for a vest.
Thank you for joining Inside the Gray Area. We're here to answer all your questions and share some interesting insights. I'm Leanne O'Brien. We look forward to seeing you next time, and be sure to follow us on social media and our YouTube channel.